Hi guys, and welcome to my Days Gone review. Days Gone is a PS4 exclusive game by Sony's Bend Studio. This game was released back in April of 2019, but I myself have only started playing it quite recently, like August time. So quite a few months after release, and I know things have been patched a little bit since then, so just so you're aware, my review is not from early days of release. This is an open world post-apocalyptic game, and you play as Deacon St. John, and you pick up roughly 2 years after this whole global pandemic has taken over. I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler free as possible, but please be aware because you will be seeing bits of gameplay that certain little things may be spoiled, but I will refrain from spoiling major plot points, as best as I can. So let's jump right in and let's just talk about the pacing of this game. This game is a real slow burner, and I mean a really slow burner. It takes a very long time to get going, and at least for me, to feel gripped and invested enough in the story and the characters and wanting, to explore and find out more about this world and what's going on with everyone. It feels a little bit lost in its early hours. It takes a while to find its feet, and I think that's because, they want to build up Deacon a bit and have him discover things and learn things from his past, etc. But it does feel quite slow, is what I'm trying to say. I'm being slow explaining this. So you play as Deacon, and when you are playing, you're going to come across different encampments within the world. At these camps, you can trade in bounties. Bounties are ears of the freakers that you collect after you've killed them, and you can earn cash there from this to spend at that specific camp only, and you get XP as well from this. And you can pick up jobs from that camp, which are usually quite similar kind of quests. For example, "Oh Deacon, someone's been taken hostage. Oh Deacon, this person's gone missing," and they'll send you out and you'll go and track them down and or find out whatever you need to find out. Each encampment mission you do rewards you with XP at the camp and credits, similar to when you hand in a bounty. Although saying that, this is drastically different, the levels of XP you will get. When you hand in a bounty, you don't get much for it. When you do missions, that's the bulk of where you're going to get your XP and your credits for that specific camp. Now, as you get XP for the camps, you level up your trust meter within that camp. And each camp has 3 levels of trust to build up to. And what the trust level does is unlocks more for you to buy at that camp, such as weapons or parts and upgrades for your bike. And you can also trade in meat from animals at camps for the same effect that trading in the freaker ears has. You get a little bit of credit and a little bit of XP, just a little boop to top you up. So that's what happens there. And let's talk a little bit about the gameplay. As you will no doubt have seen or heard about, one of the biggest attractions in this game is obviously the Hordes. The Hordes are a big group of freakers that gather together and they travel together, and you can take them on. And I will say that this part of the game is fantastic and it really excels here. I personally took on a couple of random hordes when I first was just kind of driving around quite early stages of the game. I felt I was very underprepared. I come across them randomly. That's the great thing as well. Like, you can be driving around and just see this massive horde, and the first time I saw one, I was like, "Oh my god!" I just ran away, mate. I ran away. I shot myself. But that's the great thing about them. They will travel around in their little areas. They go from place to place to place, and they kind of flit about, and they make the game very fun and give an element of tension and suspension when you're traveling around. And anyway, when I came across them early game, I didn't really have access to great weaponry, and it fills the tension so much more, and it's satisfying when you are able to pull something off. But sometimes you have to think, no, I'm not ready for this, and peg it. But that's what I love about the game. And speaking of which, the more into the game you get, the more you can unlock, as I've previously mentioned. But not just access to greater weaponry, but as you complete more of the story, you're going to unlock more craftable weapons. So things that you can find materials for and craft yourself, such as pipe bombs or traps, and many other things. And these can help when you're trying to take on a horde, or any enemies really. So you have more options available to you the more you progress. And the fun thing, and one of this game's excels at, especially again late game, is how you want to take on the groups of enemies. Like whether it's a horde or a camp you're trying to clear out for a quest, you have so many different options, which is what I like about it. You can choose to go stealthy if you want to, and you have a great weapon that you can use for that, which is the bow. Now, the bow will be silent. Obviously people can still discover bodies, right, but Deacon can hide in bushes, which makes him invisible to nearby enemies, unless he's standing up in them. Do you know what I mean? If you're just stood in a bush, mate, you're gonna get spotted. Get the hell down. But it's little things like that that help if you want to take a stealthy approach, or if you want to just scope the area out, you know, hide in a bush, have a little look around, and you can mark enemies as well, which can help you keep track of them. And you get to level up your skills as well, and one of the skills you can unlock as well will give you like a kind of vision mode that lets you see the enemies if they're nearby as well. So there's so many different approaches. So say for example I want to go stealthy, I can have my bow out, I can try and headshot people, I can hide in a bush. Deacon for some reason has unlimited rocks. He has rocks in his pocket, guys, that he just carries around, I don't know why. And you can throw them. And the great thing about this is if I'm going to throw a rock, it will highlight which enemy it's going to distract. So you use your rocks as a distraction basically, and it will show you which enemy will be distracted, and then I can sneak up to them from out my bush, shiv them, whatever you want to call it. Not shiv them, that's Last of Us I'm thinking of, you know, stealthily kill them, hide back in your bush. But you might not want to do that. You might want to go in guns blazing, and you can do that. Or you might think I want to sit back, but you know, take them all out but sit back, but I can't be bothered with sneaking in there. So you get your sniper rifle out, you can put a suppressor on it. You see where I'm going with this? Or you think, oh, I might lure someone here, but I put a trap there first. It's just great, the options you have, depending on how you want to play the game. And it is fun, you know, and it's satisfying when you, especially with hordes, is playing around with them and knowing how they move and how they work. If you plan a route and they traps, try and filter them through like thin little areas, throw a bomb or a Molotov or something, and just basically using all the equipment to your advantage. And especially, like I said, late game where it really opens up, it's something I really enjoyed in this game, and it excels there. Occasionally when traversing, you'll come across a blue question mark on your map as well, which can lead to different things, but it's usually a hostage situation. Some random person's taken hostage, and you can rescue these, or try and rescue the people. And if you manage to do this, you choose which camp you want to send them to, and it will tell you at the bottom of the screen, you know, different rewards for sending them to different camps. So if there's something you really want at, you know, Camp A, you might want to send them there, if it gives you a little XP boost there or a little bit of credits there. But I've never found I was ever really lacking in credits or XP to get anything I wanted. So I don't think it makes a drastic difference, but it's still a nice little touch. And again, like with the bounties or the meat, you could choose where you want to hand that in, which camp. So that's cool as well. Now let's talk about travelling. You're going to travel the regions of the map and a little bit of the world you're in, which is Oregon, I believe, on your bike. Well, you don't have to, you could walk everywhere, but you would make that game take a lifetime. So yeah, you're going to travel around on your bike, and your bike can be upgraded, like I've kind of mentioned, for better parts. The more XP you earn at camps, as I mentioned, you know, that's gonna, and obviously you need credits as well, but that's gonna bump up what you can unlock and then buy for your bike. And different camps have access to different things for your bike as well. And you can change the skins for your bike, which is a really nice touch actually, and you can customize it in that way, how it looks with certain things on it and the skins on it, you know, the paint job, which is a nice little touch and making it a little bit personal to you. I will say that I personally did not like the handling of the bike, especially at the beginning of the game. It felt very, I can't explain it, it just felt very off when I was trying to control it, like I was waving everywhere, like quite skiddy. It just felt, you know, just the handling I didn't find great. But the more the game went on and I upgraded the bike, the less of a problem this became, and also I just got used to it as well. Sometimes it takes a while to get used to something, so it wasn't really a big deal, but I just thought I would mention that as well. And speaking of the bike, in the lower right corner when you're driving your bike, you will see two symbols, one for fuel and another one for the state of your bike in terms of damage. And early game, your bike's fuel capacity feels pretty low, to be honest, and you have to manage this. You have to manage your fuel, you have to manage, you know, the condition of your bike, because obviously if it's got no fuel or if it's completely damaged, you ain't going to be able to drive it. If it does get to this state, you can just sit on your bike and slowly walk somewhere with it to get fuel, you know, so you're not completely stuck, but it's very slow, so you really are going to want to manage it. And this is something I can imagine people either love or hate. For me personally, I quite enjoyed it. It gave another little element to the game in managing, and you think, oh, can I try and make it there? Or sometimes, you know, it's good if you're going uphill. Obviously, you're going to need to put your foot down and accelerate, but you don't need to accelerate when you're going down the hill, because you're just going to go down the hill. So you could save your fuel that way. So it's just fun managing things. And with the fuel, you can refuel it at encampments for a price, or you can find fuel out in the wild. Deacon's got a vision mode mapped to kind of R3, I believe it is, and that will highlight anything in the area, like anything that is anything that you can use or pick up. So fuel you can pick it up there, and obviously that's free. Or there is certain gas stations as well, which you can refuel for free as well. But be careful, because you don't know who's lurking at these gas station guys. They can be dodgy times. Dodgy areas. So that's an element to it. And like I said, your bike can only take a certain amount of damage, so you need to keep an eye on that as well. Which you can fix yourself if you have enough parts, or at an encampment you can, you know, fix it for a fee. Which, again, is an aspect I liked. I like this little element of managing things, managing your resources. And your resources, for example, the parts you're going to need to fix your bike, you might need that to craft something. So you'll want it to manage and keep an eye on everything you've got going on, and look out for things all the time as well. You can use this, you can use that, you know, watching your stuff, keeping an eye on your stuff. Now I just kind of want to talk a bit about some of these small issues I have had with this game. Like, no game is perfect. No game is perfect. I did have quite a few glitches here and there. For the most part, nothing drastic. Just things that make you laugh, you know, when they glitch out. But twice in a row on a mission, my game... I don't know if I'd say it's a glitch, but it wasn't allowing me to access the area I needed to access. And it was very obvious that I needed to get to this area, and it was very obvious the paths you could take. I will show a clip of it while I'm talking about this. There was, you know, a gap in the ice you could go through, or go up a ledge, you know, and another ledge to get there, but I was pressing X and Deacon would not climb it. So okay, let myself die, try again. No, so I had to quit the whole game completely and load it back up. But that's the only time something that bad happened. But obviously I did have glitches and other things happen time to time. Some of them made the game funny, some of them a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. Another issue I had was the case of audio over audio. So for example, I might be trying to listen to someone at an encampment to give me a mission briefing, but an NPC nearby could start talking to someone else, but it's so loud, it's kind of at the same volume as my conversation, and I can't then concentrate on my conversation. Or I could be trying to listen to an audio recording I've picked up, and then the radio podcast comes on, like, above it. By the way, I know the radio podcast is skippable, but I don't want to skip dialogue. Do you know what I mean? I just had the case of this sometimes with audio over audio, and it could be quite annoying. I'm going to show you that now.
Sam, you don't understand.
The hell I don't. Those assholes in Portland just don't listen.
Told you about?
Yeah, I remember.
Well, he went back out there to see what else he could find.
Don't make me tell you
He
again.
hasn't come back.
Come on.
We think he's been
Get to
taken by a
work.
group
Hey,
of
no,
drifters who've been
don't.
moving through the
I'm
Belknap
getting to work.
wilderness.
All right. Shit, where was he last seen?
A building on the east side of town. The old
Another issue, I got quite bad lag and the game froze for a couple seconds sometimes on occasion when I was driving around on my bike. To the point I thought my game had completely stopped and I was going to have to quit it or restart my PS4, but then it would start suddenly moving again. This didn't happen often enough to become a big problem, but it did happen sometimes. And as I previously mentioned, I found some of the quests a little bit repetitive. Actually, I'm not sure if I did mention that. I think I did, I can't remember. But I found some of the missions quite repetitive. You know, like, but in what game, especially an open world game, are you not going to have somewhat repetitive missions? Of course you are. But I did notice it a bit. You know, I was noticing it quite obviously in this game. Didn't take away from my enjoyment. I still enjoyed it, you know, coming up with different ways to do things. But again, I felt I need to point this out. So in the open world that you explore, you've got collectibles you can find. This can be relating to a character, like a character could leave a note, something to do with their past and stuff that's happened to them, and it helps you learn a little bit more about them. Or you could find historic markers which tell you more about the sites of the area you're currently in, or audio recordings left by Nero, which are kind of like the scientists and experiments and things that are going on. The only issue I had with this is when you pick up any collectible, as far as I'm aware, unless I've drastically missed something, I could not find a way to open it, like, fast. For example, in the game, in other games, sometimes you pick a collectible up, you press, you know, the touchpad or whatever, it'll go straight to that collectible. But in this, I had to go to the menu, click collectibles, scroll to the section that certain collectible was in and try and find it, and then click it to view it, which it was a little bit annoying because I wish there was a button mapped to it so you could open it faster, you know, it saved a bit of time and it might have made me been more willing to read and learn more about the world. Now, did I read things? Of course I did. I read a lot of things I picked up, but some of them I didn't, because, you know, I picked that up and I carried on. So it just would have been nice to have a button map to open that collectibles you picked up really quick, just straight to them if you wanted to. Nero research sites you can come across can be really interesting as well, like I say, because you can discover things, more information about the Freakers or the world, what's been happening, what are these scientists working on, what happened to that, why are the Freakers doing this? And you get different types of Freakers as well. Why is that Freaker like that? Oh, that's why they're like that. You know, it's just interesting information. I really enjoyed finding these in this aspect of the game. It's very interesting. At these sites as well, you often find a Nero injector, and you can choose if you want to level up your focus, which is, if you're aiming your weapon, it kind of slows down time, it makes it easier to get headshots, it helps you out in combat basically. So you can either level up your focus, your stamina, or your health. And this is really cool, so you can kind of customize Deacon in a way to how you want him to be, and it does again make you want to explore the world more, because you want to find these things, because if you want to take on Hordes, you're thinking, right, I want to build up my stamina, mate, I want to build up my health in case I get hit too much if they crowd around me. Do you know, it just makes you want to invest more in the world, and I like this, it's very handy. And then when traveling around the world, you can search for things, you can use your vision mode to highlight things, you can open cars, you can search buildings, you can scavenge things off humans you've killed, which is great because you really want to keep stock of all your items, right? So you could find materials that are going to help you to craft an item, or you could find a fully fledged item, right? So for example, a Molotov, you're going to need certain items to make that, but you might find on an enemy a whole Molotov. It's just sat there, guys, a Molotov, you know, in their pocket. You can find materials that will help you craft traps, throwable weapons, and parts maybe that will help you to craft items or fix your bike. You could find ammo, you could find health items. So basically it makes exploring and scavenging, you know, feel worthwhile. You want to look around, you're going to want to keep stock of your items, you're going to want to explore the world somewhat at least, which is great because that's in an open world game. You want your player base to want to explore a bit, right? They want them to see all the hard work you put in and explore these areas, so that's good. It's a great thing about the game. Plants are a part of this as well. You find different plants in different regions and all over the place, and they're really useful for crafting certain items. And I believe some things can be traded in at the food section of encampments as well, which again is a bit like bounties. You get a little bit of XP, a little bit of credits. A little frustration I did have with the game was when I was in the weapon or item wheel. If, for example, I just crafted the Molotov, right, so my analog stick is over the Molotov, even after crafting it and letting go, Deacon would still be holding whatever I had previously equipped. So sometimes he wouldn't switch to the items I thought I had, and that then resulted in me throwing items I did not want to waste quite a few times, which was really frustrating as well. And sometimes when I was driving around, I'd get a marker or a pop-up saying new mission here, but I had no information to me about why I should go there. How do I know I should go there for this, that, the other? It didn't happen occasionally, but it did happen here and there. And sometimes it was quite funny, like the audio would be slow for it, so I'd get a marker, so go here, so I'd start driving there, then 30 seconds later someone will radio me and be like, you should go here because of so and so, and Deacon's like, okay, I'll head there. But he was already heading there, do you know what I mean? Deacon has a crazy detective mode as well, which kind of reminds me of Batman from the Arkham games, if any of you are familiar with that. It makes sense that he could track footprints and things, but sometimes, you'll see when you use your vision mode, it play out, oh, this person hit that person at that angle, and they dragged them here and did that, and it's like, how would he know all that? But it's a game, whatever, do you know what I mean? It was fun, it was cool. Talking of which, I want to move on a little bit to the story and the characters, but I can't touch on this drastically because I do want to really try and keep this as spoiler free as I can. So this is unfortunately not going to be that in depth, I'm sorry. But I will say about Deacon himself, I didn't find him that likeable at first, but he did grow on me a bit as the game went on. And in fact, thinking about it, I quite like that. He's not some perfect saint. He's very flawed, as you'll see when you play through the game, and I like that. It feels real, the characters do feel quite real. Deacon especially is a very flawed character, and there's parts of him you don't like, parts of him you like, but he's grown on me quite a lot. And some characters you're gonna meet and they don't feel as obviously as fleshed out as others. You can't flesh everyone out, I suppose, but but when you get to the third encampment is when the game will really open up and come to life. So if you are gonna play it, just know it does open up more at that point, with the characters and the stories there. It's just brilliant. And talking of characters, you have your best friend Boozer, who's probably my favourite character in the entire game. He is great, and he goes through a really tough time in the game with certain events that happen to him. And I just love the way they did this, and him coping and trying to cope with certain things that have happened and adjusting, and it just felt so real, and I loved that part of the game. And I loved his friendship, his bromance with Deacon. They were great together. Ricky and Iron Mike are another couple of standout characters I did enjoy, but again, I don't want to go deep into characters and things, but I will say I love the role that all of the different characters brought into the story. A lot of them have different viewpoints and how they want to cope with what is going on in the world, which again makes it feel more real, the conflict. Everyone has different opinions how we should deal with things, and I like that aspect of the game a lot. And within the game you have flashbacks. The first half of the game, I'd say, you have flashbacks to your life before the pandemic with your wife Sarah. Some of these flashbacks I did enjoy, but some others felt unnecessary, and a bit like some of the earlier missions as well, because sometimes they link to the mission you're doing and it just felt like it dragged a little bit. Again, I think that's because they want to give you time to learn about Deacon and his past, and you know, people to do with his past. And like I said, it is a slow burner. Sometimes I don't mind a slow burner, by the way, but this did feel like it dragged sometimes a little bit before it really got going. This bit's going to be hard to talk about, so I don't know how to say this. So without spoiling anything, I wasn't sure how I felt about a character you meet at the very last encampment you find. It just felt really off and strange, so I felt really weird. I felt almost how Deacon felt, which I suppose is amazing in a way. You're like, what the hell? But then I found that you automatically have some voice recordings from said character, and this did help explain and, you know, flesh things out a little bit more. And I suppose as well, looking back on it, it's nice in the way of it didn't go how I was expecting it to go, so that's nice as well, to have a little bit of a twist on things. Think, oh, this is going to happen, and it doesn't. And with this character as well, they set up an interesting plot point. It has more to do about the outbreak and how it happened, and well, could we deal with it by doing this? And this doesn't get touched upon greatly because it does happen near the end of the game, but if there is ever a sequel, it is something they could definitely look into expanding upon, and it's a nice little idea. But I love this whole part of the actual story. I will say the very last part of the main story, before the credits, I felt was a little bit rushed, which feels weird to say in a game that felt like it took forever to finish. But I felt a little bit unsatisfied with the way a couple of things wrapped up, and how it ended with a couple of characters. I can't obviously explain too well what I mean, but yeah, and there was a couple of characters a little bit from earlier on in the story as well that I wish were fleshed out a little bit more, but you know, it is what it is. And there was a couple of boss fights, I say boss fights, but yeah, in the game, and you know, a couple of them were cool, and then a couple I felt could have been made into more of a fun experience, something a bit unique and different, especially one quite near the end. I was hoping there'd be a bit more to it. I really enjoy the cool little details in the game as well. For example, when you're on the pause menu, you get the number of days gone you're currently at in the game. But if you pause, for example, in a flashback, it changes to 0 days gone, which I liked. And I also like that at Iron Mike's camp, for example, you feel like there are real people living and just trying to get by. For example, I came across this guy singing. He just sat there singing, and everyone was just like, whoa, around him, you know, like boogieing. But it sucked me in to the point I put the controller down, I just listened to it, and I was like, whoa, you know, which I'll put a little bit of that in now.
To tell you just what you meant to me before you lost your mind. And things never seem to change, but they still are not the same as they were yesterday.
So yeah, stuff like that was really cool. Another cool aspect is the enemies can fight each other. For example, if I wanted to clear a camp, I could notice, oh, there's a horde nearby. Let me get all the horde on me and run over to the camp, and they would fight each other, you know, kill each other off. Or sometimes, for example, I witnessed a whole horde gathering around a bear to kill it. And things like this can either make the game, I don't know, it makes the game unpredictable in a way. You're never 100% sure what you're going to get, which I quite like. And it can also make trying to tackle situations really fun as well. And there's different type of freakers. I don't want to spoil too much about them, but there is different types of them, and obviously they do different things and behave in different ways. And sometimes some of these could be used to your advantage as well. So it's just really cool, you know, the world felt lived in, the with the animals and the freakers. And for example, you can come across a bear sometime, but you won't come across them a lot, which makes sense in a world like this, or the odd deer or whatever. And they will fight each other sometimes. The deer will always try and run away. It felt real, and I like that part of the game and how they react to each other. The game also has a challenge mode section, which you can find on the main menu, which I've only tried 2 of so far, but it's pretty fun. You can take on a horde, practice how long you want to last in a combat scenario, but it's just great to have basically a bit of fun in the game and go a bit balls to the wall, like, see what you can do. And I believe you can unlock patches in the main game from this section as well, which is quite nice. Although obviously I haven't done that, because I only did that after beating the main game. So overall, I recommend this game to anyone to at least try it out, put the feelers out there, see how you feel, but do bear in mind it is really slow to get going. The characters do grow on you quite a bit, and although for me they'll never be like my favourite character of all time, or characters of all time, there are some great characters in this world and some really great ideas within this game. I like that it went balls to the walls with the hordes, you know, especially the infamous one at the sawmill, as I'm sure you've seen in the trailers before the game release. And it is really satisfying when you manage to clear a horde out, and it really brings the gameplay into its own here with using whatever you want at your disposal to tackle it. The game really excels, and it is amazing when you pull this off. The game is beautiful. It is amazing to look at. I did have issues. Occasionally, you know, things hadn't rendered or loaded in properly and were blurry. But this aside, the game is beautiful, and it has ever-changing weather as well that can turn what's normally a safe drive into making you a little bit more cautious and aware of your surroundings, as you can't see as well. Just little things like that. And different regions are very different as well. It's just the way they are. It could be snowy, or it could be, you know, more barren and deserted. It's just nice, the difference. It makes the world feel more real. The game has a photo mode option as well, which I enjoyed. I always get sucked into photo modes on games and spend an ungodly amount of hours on them. Although I wish this one had a little bit more options in places. It was great to muck around on and just have a blast on, and I love it. I love photo mode, so thank you for putting that in. The voice acting was fantastic as well, as were the animations for all the characters. Deacon especially, he felt, because he's the one you spend the most time with, obviously, he felt so real with every expression he makes, and like I said, his character itself is so flawed and human. I loved it. And can I just say as well, the soundtrack to this game is amazing. The music throughout this, up there with some of the, you know, taking on the hordes and things, is one of the game's best aspects. The soundtrack is, and I loved it. I loved the soundtrack so much. And I felt that this game had some great ideas underneath, but it really could flourish. I think if Ben Studios did another game, a sequel, it could really flourish because there's some great ideas. And as well, when you finish the main game, stick around because you will get some quests. I say quests, it's not really a quest, it's more like go here and a cutscene will play. But there is a big one, and it's like, what the fuck? And it has potential for a sequel, you know, because you're like, what the fuck? But it doesn't have to have a sequel. That's the great thing about it. This thing, you could see it as, oh fuck, what the fuck? Or like, oh fuck, let's learn more about that. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to spoil it, but please stick around after the credits because there is more stuff to happen and more for you to find out. I felt the writing and the pacing could have been better in places, and like I said, there could have been boss fights that are a bit more exciting and little things fleshed out a little more. But overall, after a while of playing, admittedly, but I got quite sucked in. There was a point I remember where I could not wait to see what was going to happen. I was like itching to play it, you know. And although I felt a little let down with some things in it, and I wish a couple of things wrapped up a bit better, you know, it was a great experience for the most part. So I would definitely say to please check this out if you have time to spare, because it is a hefty game. I think it took me around 60 or so hours, maybe even more. It felt like it took forever, but I really recommend you guys try this out. It is a good game, and you know, if they do a sequel, I'm all for it. If they don't, they don't. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, guys, if you have played this, what you think, what you liked, what you didn't like, and I just want to say thank you to Ben Studio and to anyone watching this. Enjoy!